Tolerance will reach such a level that intelligent people will be prohibited to think so as not to offend the imbeciles. That is a quote from my favorite author, Dostoevsky, and it perfectly encapsulates a lot of what is going on in modern society. People are behaving in increasingly irrational ways. It's as if everyone wants you to conform. And the moment you do not conform, the moment you espouse a worldview that forces people to critically think, that pushes people to the boundaries of their worldview, it forces them to question why they have the worldview that they have. Ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot articulate where a thought came from in your own mind, then that thought is not yours. It's been programmed into you. And we're all programmed to some degree. To think that you're above programming is a form of hubris. But you have to understand that a lot of the programming that's been ingratiated into you is not there to serve you. It's there to serve other people. It's there to turn you effectively into a worker droid who does not think for himself. The school system is not designed to create a nation of critical thinkers. John D. Rockefeller, the founder of the modern American school system, famously said that he doesn't want a nation of critical thinkers. He wants a nation of workers. And that's what a lot of people have turned into. And the world is going to soon be divided. If it's not already divided, I believe it already is, between those that think for themselves and those that are told what to think. And you do not want to fall into this latter category. You do not want to be told what to think, because the world that you're going to inherit is not going to be a world where it's going to be good to be the average person. So let's talk about this. How is thinking punished in modern society? Well, thinking is punished in modern society because the moment you express an opinion that differs from the mainstream, people turn on you. It's as if they turn into a matrix agent. Of course, that's a analogy, a referral. And I know the matrix analogy has been overused a lot by a lot of people, but it's as if people turn on you and they become agents in real time, agents of the matrix. And the way you have to look for the truth. And it's very hard to uncover the truth. When you see a piece of news, ask yourself, who would want me to believe that? Why is that piece of news being presented to me at this specific time? You look at, some piece of culture, some piece of, like, when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, there was a bill being passed in the US Congress that something to do with the Epstein files, I believe. And at the same time, there's this whole cultural nuisance of what's going on in the news. And then there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. You have to realize that a lot of the news is a veneer. It's not designed to keep you informed. It's designed to keep you in a state of anxiousness. Plato's allegory of the cave is a story that everybody should read, but it perfectly encapsulates the modern mainstream media. They're not there. They're just propaganda outlets at this point. They're not just there to keep you, they're not there to keep you informed, shall we say. In Notes from the Underground, Dostoevsky says that to be too conscious is an illness, and he was referring to intellectual and psychological exile. And it is a place where you can get to in life, where you become, like, so aware of the mechanisms and the way that society operates that you almost have to self-isolate. In other words, it's kind of like the curse of the high IQ. What you have to understand is society is designed for the median, for the average person. Take speed limits, for instance. The speed limit might be 80 kilometers an hour, but we all react differently to things. The reason the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour on a particular road is because engineers have decided that the average person with their reaction times could slow to a halt if they see an object in the road. The average person with their reaction time, with their driving ability, could successfully navigate a roadblock and move to the other lane. An average person, do you understand what I'm saying? If you're a race car driver and you are top 1% in your reaction times and you're extremely athletic and you have great sort of cognitive ability, you might be able to drive safely at 100, 110, 120 kilometers on that same road and not cause an accident. Versus if there's someone who's a bit cognitively impaired, they may only be able to drive at 70 kilometers an hour at that, like, in that same road. However, the speed limit's 80. And that is just an analogy for how society is designed for the median. It's designed for the average person. The masses have never thought for themselves. The masses have never thought for themselves, ever. And a lot of the mainstream information, whether it's about how to make money, whether it's about how to become educated, whether it's the education system in and of itself, a lot of the information that exists in the mainstream is not there to serve you, educate you, and turn you into an individual. It's there to turn you into a worker. And that is effectively what I wanted to articulate. The masses are never going to understand. The moment you decide to embark on a different path, people aren't going to understand you. Nikola Tesla once said, I believe he said this on his deathbed to his mother, "All these years in the service of humanity have gained me nothing but insults." The moment you stand up, you cast a shadow, and that shadow has an antithetical element. And that antithetical element will draw opposition from people around you. And that opposition is drawn because of environmental incongruity. You're not congruent with your environment. I don't know why I stuttered there. You're not congruent with your environment. You're incongruent with your environment. So that draws opposition. So ladies and gentlemen, if you consider yourself a critical, deep thinker, and you find yourself in a sort of intellectual and psychological exile in modern society, the only message I have is the only way out is through. The only way out is to surround yourself with people, even if they may be fewer in quantity, that are of greater quality. The only way out is to seriously vet those you associate with your time with, because the way the masses think is probably not the way that is conducive to the life that you eventually want to live. A non-thinking person and a low-friction life is what is laid out for the majority of people. The moment you become a thinking person and you decide that you want a high-friction life, you want to go against the grain, you want to challenge cultural beliefs, cultural norms, that is when you are going to encounter opposition. But if anything, the opposition is the sign that you are on the right track.